Hello, I'm Dr. Liana, and I need to share something remarkable that I've observed working with metabolic health patients over the last 16 years. The single most impactful intervention I've implemented that requires zero pharmaceutical involvement and costs less than $1 per day is a specific morning beverage protocol that fundamentally changes how your body processes glucose throughout the entire day. I've watched patients who were experiencing debilitating afternoon energy crashes, relentless sugar cravings, and progressive weight gain completely transform their metabolic function within just 7 days of implementing this simple morning drink. What's fascinating is that this approach doesn't restrict calories, doesn't require extreme dietary changes, and doesn't demand hours at the gym. Instead, it works by addressing a fundamental physiological mechanism that most people don't even realize is broken. Your blood sugar stability throughout the day is not determined primarily by what you eat at lunch or dinner. It's determined by what happens in the critical metabolic window in your first 2 hours after waking. This window is absolutely crucial because your body's insulin sensitivity is highest in the morning. Your pancreas is ready to respond appropriately to carbohydrates. Your cortisol levels are naturally elevated to mobilize energy. Your cells are primed for optimal glucose uptake. But if you waste this window by spiking your blood sugar with refined carbohydrates and processed foods, you set yourself up for metabolic dysfunction throughout the entire day. You trigger excessive insulin release, which causes your cells to become progressively more insulin resistant, which causes your energy to crash by mid-morning, which triggers desperate cravings for more carbohydrates, which causes another blood sugar spike and another crash. You're trapped in a glucose oscillation cycle that's exhausting and metabolically destructive. I had a patient named David who experienced this pattern daily. He was 48 years old, worked in finance, and by 9:30 in the morning he was already exhausted despite having just woken up 3 hours earlier. He'd eat a typical breakfast of cereal with milk and orange juice around 6:30. Within 30 minutes, his glucose would spike sharply. His pancreas would release excess insulin. His glucose would crash by 8:30, triggering intense fatigue and sugar cravings. He'd grab a muffin and coffee around 9. Blood sugar would spike again. Another crash by 11. By lunch, he was so hungry he'd eat enormous portions. His glucose would spike again. He'd crash at 2 in the afternoon so severely that he could barely focus on work. He'd drink an energy drink or eat candy to recover. Another spike, another crash. This pattern continued until dinner, and by the time he got home, he was mentally and physically exhausted. His doctor said his fasting glucose was normal, his A1C was normal, so everything was fine. But David knew something was fundamentally wrong. He was living in a state of constant glucose instability. When I introduced him to this morning drink protocol, everything changed. He drank it first thing upon waking, waited 45 minutes, then ate a reasonable breakfast with eggs and whole grain toast. By 9:30, he still had energy. His glucose remained stable. He made it to lunch without a desperate hunger surge. The crashes disappeared. His afternoon mental clarity returned. By day 7, he was a different person. He wasn't fighting biology anymore. He was supporting biology. This morning drink works because it contains a specific combination of compounds that work synergistically to accomplish several things simultaneously. First, it slows the rate at which glucose enters your bloodstream from any food you eat afterward. This prevents the sharp blood sugar spikes that trigger excessive insulin release. Second, it improves insulin sensitivity, meaning your cells respond more effectively to insulin signaling, so your pancreas doesn't need to overcompensate. Third, it reduces systemic inflammation, which directly contributes to insulin resistance and metabolic dysfunction. Fourth, it supports healthy digestion and nutrient absorption, which stabilizes your glucose response to food. And fifth, it activates metabolic pathways that enhance fat burning and energy production. The primary active ingredient is raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar containing what's called the mother culture. The mother is a living colony of beneficial bacteria and enzymes that form during fermentation. This is crucial. Most commercially available apple cider vinegar has been pasteurized, which kills this mother culture and removes many of the beneficial compounds. You must specifically purchase raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar with the mother clearly labeled on the bottle. The key mechanism is acetic acid, which has been extensively studied in peer-reviewed research. Acetic acid slows gastric emptying, which is the rate at which food moves from your stomach into your small intestine. When this process is slowed, glucose enters your bloodstream more gradually instead of flooding in all at once. A landmark study published in Diabetes Care examined people with impaired glucose tolerance who consumed 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar before consuming a high-carbohydrate meal. These individuals showed significantly reduced blood glucose spikes compared to control groups. The effect was substantial, with glucose spikes reduced by approximately 30%. This wasn't a small difference. This was a meaningful physiological change that occurred simply by adding a food compound that costs pennies. Beyond the acetic acid, apple cider vinegar contains polyphenols and other compounds that support healthy gut bacteria, which further improve glucose metabolism through the production of short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. The second essential component is Ceylon cinnamon, which is entirely different from the cassia cinnamon most people use. Ceylon cinnamon contains specific polyphenolic compounds, particularly something called cinnamaldehyde and other proanthocyanidins, that directly improve insulin signaling. Research from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition demonstrated that consuming cinnamon with carbohydrate-containing meals reduced postprandial glucose responses by approximately 18%. The mechanism is that these compounds activate receptors in your cells that enhance glucose uptake independent of insulin. In other words, cinnamon helps your cells pull glucose directly from your bloodstream, which reduces the burden on your pancreas to produce excess insulin. The third component is turmeric, specifically for its curcumin content. Curcumin is one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory compounds found in plant-based foods. Systemic inflammation directly drives insulin resistance. When your body is chronically inflamed, your cells become progressively less responsive to insulin signals. This is why people with chronic inflammation develop metabolic dysfunction even when they aren't overweight. Curcumin reduces this inflammation, which improves insulin sensitivity at the cellular level. However, curcumin has poor bioavailability on its own, meaning your body can't absorb most of it. This is why the fourth component, black pepper, is absolutely essential. Black pepper contains piperine, which enhances curcumin absorption by approximately 2,000%. Without black pepper, most of the curcumin passes through your digestive system unused. With black pepper, your body actually utilizes it. The fifth component is fresh ginger, which contains compounds called gingerols and shogaols. These compounds activate a receptor called TRPV1 on your cells, which improves glucose sensing and enhances insulin secretion from your pancreas. Additionally, ginger reduces inflammation throughout your digestive system and supports healthy digestion, which further contributes to stable glucose absorption. The sixth component is fresh lemon juice, which provides citric acid that slows gastric emptying similarly to apple cider vinegar. Lemon also contains flavonoids and other compounds that support liver function, which is critical for glucose metabolism and healthy fat burning. Now, here's what's absolutely critical to understand. The preparation method matters more than the ingredients themselves. If you simply pour boiling water over these ingredients, you destroy many of the delicate compounds. If you don't combine them properly, they won't work synergistically. Here's the exact step-by-step protocol that actually works. Start with 8 to 10 ounces of filtered water. Heat it to approximately 175 degrees Fahrenheit. This temperature is specific. You want it hot enough to extract the beneficial compounds from the spices, but not so hot that you destroy the delicate polyphenols and other active compounds. If you don't have a thermometer, heat the water until steam is rising noticeably, but it's not yet boiling. Add 1/2 teaspoon of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar with the mother culture. This is non-negotiable. Pasteurized apple cider vinegar won't provide the same benefits. Add 1/4 teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon. Make absolutely sure your label says Ceylon cinnamon, not cassia cinnamon. Cassia cinnamon is cheaper and more common, but it's much higher in coumarin, which can be toxic in large quantities. Ceylon is superior and safer. Add 1/8 teaspoon of turmeric powder. This might seem like a small amount, but turmeric is extremely concentrated. More isn't better. Too much turmeric can actually upset your stomach. Add 1 pinch of black pepper, approximately 1/16 teaspoon. The piperine in black pepper is potent, and you only need a tiny amount. Add 1/4 teaspoon of fresh grated ginger or 1/8 teaspoon of dried ginger powder. Fresh ginger is superior because it has higher concentrations of active gingerols, but either works. Stir everything together thoroughly and let it steep for 2 to 3 minutes. This steeping period is important. It allows the compounds in the spices to fully release into the water. Shake the cup gently a few times during this period. Finally, add the juice from 1/4 of a fresh lemon, approximately 1 tablespoon of juice. Use only fresh squeezed lemon juice, never bottled lemon juice, which contains preservatives and lacks the living enzymes present in fresh juice. The timing of consumption is equally important as the preparation. You must drink this beverage on a completely empty stomach immediately upon waking. Don't eat anything before drinking it. Then wait 30 to 45 minutes before consuming any food or drink other than water. This timing is crucial because it allows the apple cider vinegar and other compounds to prepare your digestive system and begin improving your insulin sensitivity before carbohydrates arrive in your system. During this waiting period, your body activates certain metabolic pathways and begins mobilizing fatty acids for energy, which further supports stable blood sugar throughout the morning. After waiting the appropriate time, eat a breakfast that includes both protein and healthy fat. This combination further slows glucose absorption. Excellent breakfast options include eggs with whole grain toast and avocado, Greek yogurt with berries and nuts, or a smoothie containing protein powder, spinach, and natural nut butter. These breakfasts provide a slower, more sustained glucose response compared to refined carbohydrates or simple sugars. Combined with the morning drink, they create an optimal metabolic environment where your glucose rises gradually, your insulin response is appropriate and proportional, and your energy remains stable throughout the entire morning. What happens over the 7-day trial period is progressive stabilization of your glucose and corresponding improvements in how you feel. During days 1 and 2, most people don't notice dramatic subjective changes. Your glucose is stabilizing, but the effects are subtle. On day 3, most people report noticeably improved afternoon energy. The fatigue that previously hit by mid-morning or early afternoon simply doesn't appear. You make it through the day without the energy crashes that previously dominated your schedule. By day 5, mental clarity improves significantly. People report better focus, reduced brain fog, and easier concentration on complex tasks. This happens because your brain is no longer oscillating between glucose excess and glucose deficiency. It's receiving a steady, consistent fuel supply. By day 7, most people notice a meaningful shift in their relationship with food. Sugar cravings diminish substantially because your blood sugar is stable, so your brain isn't sending desperate hunger signals. Your appetite hormones normalize. Ghrelin, the hunger hormone that drives overeating, stops spiking dramatically. Leptin, the satiety hormone that signals fullness, begins working properly again. Many people spontaneously eat smaller portions at lunch and dinner because they're not making up for energy crashes from earlier in the day. Some people report that their clothes fit differently, not because they've lost dramatic amounts of weight overnight, but because visceral fat begins decreasing when glucose stability improves. I worked with a patient named Michelle who tracked her experience meticulously over 30 days. Days 1 through 3, she felt slightly less bloated, but no other major changes. Days 4 through 7, her afternoon energy improved noticeably. She stopped relying on her usual 3 o'clock coffee. Days 8 through 14, her sleep quality improved dramatically. When glucose is stable throughout the day, your cortisol and other stress hormone patterns normalize, which improves sleep architecture. She started sleeping deeper and waking less frequently during the night. Days 15 through 21, her skin actually cleared up. This surprised her, but chronic glucose instability causes inflammation and hormonal dysregulation that often manifest as acne and skin issues. As her glucose stabilized, her skin improved visibly. Days 22 through 30, she lost 8 pounds without consciously restricting her diet. She'd simply combined the morning drink with a reasonable breakfast, and her body naturally regulated itself into a healthier state. What's crucial to understand is that this morning drink is not a magic potion that fixes everything. If you drink it and then consume donuts, candy, and processed foods throughout the day, you'll still have metabolic problems. This drink is a tool that works powerfully when combined with reasonable dietary choices. But when you combine it with sensible eating, your body responds remarkably well. This is why I'm asking you to commit to just 7 days. 7 days is sufficient time for your body to experience the benefits and understand the difference between glucose stability and glucose instability. Once you experience stable glucose, you'll never want to go back to the crashes and cravings. Important considerations and variations exist. If you have a sensitive stomach or haven't used apple cider vinegar previously, start with 1/4 teaspoon instead of 1/2 teaspoon. Your digestive system may need time to adapt. Over 2 weeks, gradually increase to the full amount. If you're taking medications, particularly diabetes medications or blood pressure medications, consult your doctor before starting this protocol. While the drink is generally safe, it can enhance the effects of certain medications, potentially requiring dosage adjustments. If you're pregnant or breastfeeding, consult your healthcare provider before implementing any new health protocol. If you prefer a warm drink but find the taste too strong, you can add a small amount of stevia or raw honey once the drink has cooled to approximately 120 degrees. This won't significantly impact the glucose stabilizing mechanisms. Some patients add a small amount of coconut milk or unsweetened almond milk to improve palatability and create a creamier texture without meaningfully affecting the intervention's mechanism of action. Regarding long-term use, you can absolutely drink this every single day indefinitely. Many of my patients who experience benefits continue drinking it daily for years. The beneficial effects don't diminish with time. If anything, the longer you use it, the more your insulin sensitivity improves and the more your glucose stability becomes normalized. Some patients eventually reduce frequency to 4 or 5 times weekly and still maintain benefits because their metabolic function has fundamentally improved. But there's no risk or harm in continuing daily. What if you occasionally skip a day or miss the morning drink? 1 or 2 missed days won't erase your progress. But consistency matters more than intensity. Drinking this 5 days per week is far better than drinking it twice per week sporadically. Your body responds to consistent metabolic signals. Missing 1 day occasionally won't hurt. But missing 5 consecutive days, and you'll likely notice glucose instability beginning to return. The key is making it a habitual routine, something as automatic as brushing your teeth. This drink is not a replacement for addressing underlying lifestyle factors. If you're completely sedentary, sleep terribly, and eat predominantly processed food, this drink will help, but it won't be a miracle cure. The drink is most powerful when combined with reasonable dietary choices, consistent movement, and adequate sleep. Think of it as an amplifier on top of a solid foundation. The foundation is your diet and lifestyle. The drink amplifies and enhances the benefits of that foundation. Let me share one final patient story because it illustrates the power of this protocol. Her name was Patricia, and she was 59 years old. Her A1C was 6.4%, firmly in the pre-diabetic range. Her doctor had recommended medication, but she wanted to try dietary approaches first. Her fasting glucose was 112. She was exhausted constantly. She'd gained 35 pounds over the past 5 years, despite not dramatically changing her eating habits. The root problem was glucose instability driving excessive hunger and persistent cravings that sabotaged her intentions. I introduced this morning drink protocol combined with modest adjustments to her meals, emphasizing whole foods and protein intake. Within 7 days, her energy improved noticeably. Within 3 weeks, her fasting glucose had dropped to 100. Within 8 weeks, her A1C had decreased to 5.8%, which is no longer in the pre-diabetic range. She'd lost 14 pounds, and more importantly, she felt dramatically better. Her afternoon fatigue had disappeared. Her cravings had normalized. She'd prevented diabetes without medication by addressing the fundamental glucose instability that was driving her metabolic dysfunction. This is what becomes possible when you understand that blood glucose stability is a powerful lever for health transformation. You don't need complex interventions. You don't need expensive supplements or fancy equipment. You need to address the fundamental mechanism. You need to slow glucose absorption. You need to improve insulin sensitivity. You need to stabilize your energy throughout the day. This simple morning drink accomplishes all of this. Here's what I want you to do starting immediately. Tomorrow morning, prepare this drink exactly as I've described. Drink it on an empty stomach immediately upon waking. Wait 30 to 45 minutes. Then eat a breakfast that includes protein and healthy fat. Write down how you feel every evening for 7 days. Note your energy levels. Note any afternoon fatigue. Note your cravings. By day 7, you'll have enough data to understand whether this is working for you. For most people, it works substantially. By sharing this information with someone you care about who struggles with afternoon energy crashes or constant cravings, you help them understand that these are signs of glucose instability, not personal failure. Most people don't realize there's a simple solution available. If this information was valuable, subscribe to this channel for science-based strategies for metabolic health that actually work. Hit the like button so this video reaches more people struggling with glucose instability. Check out my other videos on how specific foods affect glucose response and how to build sustainable eating patterns that support stable blood sugar. Your metabolic health is worth the 7-day commitment. Your energy, mental clarity, weight, and long-term disease prevention depend on it. Start tomorrow morning. Try this for 7 days. Thank you for watching.